Hello, everyone. This is the Free American Press, their host Alexander Horat, and today we're joined by my real estate broker and mom, Maria Horat. And today we're going to be making a slideshow presentation on the Genius Act and how it's a backdoor to the CBDC. So I'm going to give my mom the floor right now so she can start talking about this very important issue.
Hello, I want to make sure that everyone understands that I'm not an expert on crypto. I have just done some research and listened to some experts talk about the Genius Act and how there is one particular provision that might actually open the door to the CBDC, despite the fact that the Trump administration have told everyone that they are not going to allow the CBDC. But I would like to just go over um, some of these information that I have gathered, and I will be interested in everyone's thoughts as well. So there is a growing concern that the Genius Act, despite the fact that it appears to be pro-innovation and pro-crypto messaging, might actually be laying the groundwork for the digital currency. Okay, the central bank digital currency, otherwise known as CBDC. But not through a direct launch, but instead it could be happening indirectly using the private sector stablecoins as a Trojan horse. So at first glance, uh, the Genius Act appears to support stablecoin innovation in the US, encouraging both banks and non-banks entities to compete in the digital space. But upon closer attention, there is a key provision, and that is that no bank is permitted, no non-bank is permitted payment stablecoin issuer or foreign payment stablecoin issuer might provide any form of interest or other incentive on the stablecoin to the holder solely by virtue of the holder maintaining possession or control of the stablecoin. In other words, if any of these entities is a non-bank, they cannot issue interest on the stablecoin.
Yeah, and that's a big deal because if you can't have interest, then you're gonna be not having as good as competition in the market.
That's exactly correct. So, but let's first just clarify one other thing. Who do you think this is going to be a great give a great advantage to?
The banks.
Yeah, banks like JP Morgan are going to have a competitive advantage over all these other entities that are non-banks because they'll be able to pay interest on these stable coins. And as we will see later, people will be incentivized to use the stable coins provided by banks like JP Morgan. So, but before we dive any deeper, let's clarify what stable coins are and how they differ from CBDCs. So, a stable coin is essentially a cryptocurrency which has a value that is pegged or tied to that of another currency, commodity, or financial instrument. So there are four types of stable coins. One is the fiat-backed stable coin, which is the one that is presented to us through the Genius Act. The stable coins are pegged to the dollar on a 1-to-1 ratio. And let's remember, fiat currencies are basically like the US dollars backed by what?
Backed by nothing.
Backed by nothing, well, actually worse than nothing, debt, right? Which is on the negatives. So then we have the crypto-backed stable coins, and then there's also algorithmic stable coins and commodity-backed stable coins. So actually, I think I saw in an article that the BRICS nations, like China, they're moving towards a commodity-backed stable coins, which essentially will be stable coins backed by possibly precious metals like gold and silver. So, what is a central bank digital currency, or otherwise known as CBDC? They're digital tokens similar to cryptocurrency issued by a central bank. So, essentially, CBDCs are liabilities of the central bank, no private institutions, and they exist. And the key to this is on a centralized government control ledger. There is a ledger control, one ledger control by the government. and they give state direct access to and control over consumer transactions. CBDCs can be programmable, meaning rules can be set on when, where, how you spend your money, and most importantly, they eliminate the need for commercial banks as intermediaries. So the core concern here is that private banks like JP Morgan, because of this provision that we mentioned, that only banks can issue interest on the stablecoins. If private banks like JP Morgan dominate the stablecoin issuance, thanks to laws like the Genius Act, all transactions flow through a single app or a single network and ultimately a centralized ledger. And the line between private stablecoins and government-controlled CBDCs begin to blur. At that point, it doesn't matter whether the Fed issues the money directly or if every dollar flows through one gateway monitored and managed by a few players, a few big banks connected to the state. So you will essentially have created a CBDC in disguise. So let's explore how this system could evolve and the hidden risk it possesses. Let's break it down because what I believe the so-called Genius Act that was just passed is nothing but a backdoor to the central digital currency system. So at the center, you have the central bank and the one that creates the currency or CBDC, and all the payment records are created through a ledger. So every transaction, so here you have all these commercial banks. You have the commercial issuer, the regulator here, and the money has to be whatever is spent goes into a ledger, and this ledger from the person that's buying or selling has to communicate with the ledger from the other entity. Okay. Now, even though some politicians claim that they have banned the CBDC, all payments records are stored on a single ledger or a database, which is the foundation of the system. In today's banking system, when you buy something, like I mentioned, say a Starbucks, the transaction is processed between your bank and the merchant's bank. So those banks talk to each other through a system like SWIFT. And then the payments settle on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet using bank reserves. So when you pay for a $10 for a coffee, your bank transfers that liability to the merchant's bank and balances it out by transferring $10 worth of reserve via the Fed. Okay, this is called the interbank settlement. So what is the big deal then? What is the big deal? Well, the system works today because it's spread among various banks, right? But and they all have separate ledgers. And a CBDC will centralize everything onto one ledger, like managed by the Fed. But the problem is that if there is only one bank or a couple of banks that have the competitive advantage because they are the ones who issue interest, everyone is going to be incentivized, all the merchants, everyone is going to be incentivized because of the utility to use that same bank, right? Because if you have money, you're not going to be putting your coins in something that doesn't give you interest. So the problem is with a unified ledger, the issuer can track every transaction in real time. They can use AI to analyze behavior, which, as you might know, the US has already partnered with OpenAI.
Yeah.
They have Google AI is already a vendor for the government, and they can freeze accounts, set expiration dates on money, or even tie financial access to a social credit score. So now comes the Genius Act, a bill that says that only banks can pay interest on stable coins. So private companies like Tether, which issues a dollar peg token, can't offer the interest. But if JP Morgan issues a similar coin, they can pay interest. So that gives a massive advantage to the bank. Here's some of the points that the Genius Act or some of the requirements for issuing stablecoins, the fine print. Only banks allowed to pay interest. Okay, only banks. So JP Morgan is at a competitive advantage. And then we have companies like Coinbase now considering applying for US banking license. Why would they want to apply for a US banking license?
So they can issue interest.
Exactly. But even if you have multiple ledgers, say none of this was true, which it is. But so if you have multiple ledgers, there is a company called Palantir, and they work hand in hand with AI. Even if there are multiple layers, the data can be still centralized and analyzed, possibly by companies like Palantir, which already works with many government agencies and global institutions, such as the World Economic Forum. Okay, so suddenly the system can monitor your behavior, set rules on how and where you spend, and determine your credit worthiness based on social score. So like I mentioned, what's going to happen? Merchants are going to follow the herd. If most people are using JP Morgan coin because it pays interest and has better utility, merchants will feel the pressure to accept it. That means that they will have to use JP Morgan's app or system. So it becomes a closed loop, like everyone is tied to the same digital infrastructure, voluntarily or not. So the real risk here is that all money becomes programmable, government or banks can control how you spend, and there is no need for interbank settlements, so money creation can explode unchecked. If these stable coins are backed by one-to-one to the fiat currency, what's another problem? That the banks can actually expand the money supply because they have been printing money for many, many decades, but now, since they don't have to have something physical under the stable coins, then we might be transitioning to something where they will just be issuing more money digitally. So this can be a slippery slope, even if the intentions behind these systems are not what we think. When you centralize financial power and data, it can absolutely be misused. And when you add AI and data aggregation into the mix, it opens the door for central planning on a level that we have never seen, where governments think they no longer need free markets or price signals to allocate resources because they think AI can do it. So that would be the utopia that a lot of these people dream of, what they will want to have us under. So, what are some final thoughts on this slippery slope? What are some of the things that we should be paying attention to, Alex?
I think we should be paying attention to that. This is what stablecoins are backed by, who's issuing them, where your transaction data is going, what technology is tracking and aggregating it. And this just isn't a tech upgrade. This could reshape freedom, privacy, and capitalism as we know it. And I really think this is going to be corporate fascism. They basically don't want to go out and say we're starting a CBDC, government CBDC. They want to do it through the back door and have their banks, which are highly regulated and are very involved with the government already, and then have basically a CBDC with the corporate fascism.
Yes. And again, one of the ways, some of the ways that we can push against this is that definitely knowledge, right? Investing in knowledge and knowing what they're backed by, and they're trying to move us away from tangibles, right?
Right.
So if we can try to stick to the tangibles, I think we'll be in better shape, whether that's gold and silver or real estate. Whether that we can just will be certainly the best way that we can try to push away these trends.
I definitely agree, and I would just like to thank everybody for watching this video. If you could please share it with your friends and comment and subscribe, that would be great. And if you're interested in having some real estate work done, we're based in California, but we do real estate across the whole United States. If you're interested, you can contact me at alexhora@gmail.com, and I'll put that down in the description as well. And I just would like to thank my mom for making this video for the Free American Press. And also follow us on the freeamericanpress.com. We have a lot of articles coming out, and we're trying to make a freedom-based community there on the freeamericanpress.com. So thanks again for watching. Do you have anything else to say?
Thank you. No, that's all. I hope everyone can comment and just do your own research on what this is all about. Definitely very complex, but on the surface, this is what I kind of picked on, and also based on what a lot of experts are talking about at this time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you all for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day. God bless.